I'm Dr. Ariel Polanca, and you're watching The Step. Hi, Sarah. Welcome to The Step.
Hi, thank you so much for having me.
We are so happy to have you.
I'm so excited to be here.
Yes. You have had quite the journey, my friend. You have had a total of 9 surgeries, is it?
Yeah,
on
9.
Your right leg? All right. I'm going to do my best to sum up part of your journey. Please correct me if I'm wrong in any capacity, and I'm going to use some orthopedic surgery terminology as well to sort of describe some things that have happened. So Sarah suffered a horrific tibia-fibula fracture, which is the shin bone and the small bone of the lower extremity after a motor vehicle accident that was associated with an ankle dislocation. She was initially treated with external fixation, which is beams and rods that are outside of the leg and pins into the bones to help stabilize the fracture. She had a really rare complication afterwards, which is called compartment syndrome, which can actually be not only fatal to the limb, but actually can be fatal to the human, where the pressure inside of the muscle compartments is so great that the muscles can die, and that can be toxic to the body, of which she was rushed to emergency surgery. From then on, she had a series of total of 7 surgeries, of which I'm going to end this synopsis and have her take it from there, complicated by infection, IV antibiotics, and multiple other surgeries. So I'm going to have you take the torch from here and keep on with your journey, but I would like to swing back to that, I can only imagine, terrifying experience of compartment syndrome. And if you could just talk to us a little bit more about that.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, for starters, I didn't know what compartment syndrome even was. And, I had just gotten out of surgery. My parents had taken me home from my college town, brought me back to their house that had a nerve block. And I remember being home and just being in excruciating amounts of pain. I actually was laying in my parents' bed, just like screaming for help and continuously telling them, like, something is wrong. I don't think this is normal. This isn't right. I am in so much pain. I can't get comfortable. I'm on these pain meds. I have a nerve block. Why am I feeling so much pain?
Why are you in so much pain? Exactly.
Yeah. And so I remember my parents were like, this is part of the process. Like, it will get better. And within the next hour, I was like, no, we need to go to the hospital right now. Like, I know something is wrong. Like, I can feel it. I know something is wrong. So we went to the emergency room, and this was not the same hospital that I had my surgery at the day before. They take me in and they start evaluating me. And when they unwrap my leg, I think one of the most shocking things in my entire life was seeing it. Blood gushing everywhere. My skin was completely ripped open. It was blistering. It was so swollen, purple. And I just remember me and my family were just like in shock when we saw it. And like, how did this happen? We just had surgery. Like, what's going on? And I was talking to my dad about it the other day and reflecting on it. And one thing we kind of were talking about is, when that leg was unwrapped, you could almost see it. It was a textbook diagnosis, a diagnosis that not many people see. And these 2 med students in the room, it was very clear. They were like, we need a surgeon here right now.
Now, when you were discharged from the hospital, did they give you warnings or an understanding of what compartment syndrome was and what to look out for in the case that you would develop that?
No.
No. Okay.
And I wish, that is one thing that I wish would have been communicated to me because of how life-threatening and, limb-threatening it really is.
Of course.
Had I not, and that's one thing I will always sit on and always reflect on is, had I not that night fought and just yelled and said, I need to go to the hospital, I could have lost my leg or my life.
Yes.
So the fact I went, I'll forever be grateful for, but it was truly one of the most traumatizing things ever and one of the hardest things I've ever recovered from.
So now we're en route to the operating room.
Yes.
And what was that like?
Terrifying. Within the matter of seconds, once they discovered it was compartment syndrome, I'm being stretched down the hallway on a table, stretched down this hallway on this table, and my surgeon's trying to figure out, do I have sensation? And he's poking me with his pen, and everybody is frantically running around. I remember when I say being run down the hallway, I really mean my parents were running down next to me. I'm trying to call my siblings, like say like, I don't know what's going on. Like this is like the most traumatic thing. I want to say I love them. Like, you know, I'm about to be put under. No one knows what's going on. And that was the scariest moment of my life. Going into the operating room after hearing I had this compartment syndrome, which I just found out about right then and there. They're saying, you might lose your leg, you might lose your leg. Going into an operating room, you're about to be put under and you don't even know if you're going to come out with your leg. I just remember like tears falling down my face. I was traumatized. My parents were crying. Like it felt like a movie. It really felt like a movie. One of those scenes where you're just like, this is so crazy and doesn't feel even real.
How did you, I mean, you came out with your leg.
Yes.
Obviously. You then had subsequent multiple surgeries, infections, a lot of other sequelae that happened afterwards.
Yes.
But how did you mentally deal and recover from that trauma?
You know, and
have you? I mean, honestly.
Yeah. If full transparency, at first, I didn't. I can't tell you in like how many nights I went to bed crying, how many mornings I woke up just sobbing because I didn't want to get out of bed. The pain was so bad. And it got to the point where I didn't even like want to be around. I didn't love myself anymore. I was consistently dealing with this horrible pain. I went from being in college to living at home in my parents' basement, not being able to walk, not even knowing if my leg is going to overcome this, and just having to put my life on hold was hard enough as it was, having to move away from your friends, your family, but the unknown is what ate me alive. And I probably spent more nights crying myself to sleep than I did actually sleeping. I think over time, you know, it got better, but it didn't get better until I hit rock bottom. I had to hit rock bottom to come up.
What was rock bottom for you?
At rock bottom, there was, and I think this is where I just hit it, was when my ankle contracted. I just remember there was one night in particular and I was just crying on the bathroom floor in my parents' house. And
take your time.
Sorry. Okay. Rock bottom for me was when I couldn't even get someone to listen to me about how it was impacting my life. And all I was being offered was amputation.
Yeah. And from, you know, our conversations that we've had, this was after the seventh surgery.
Yes.
So you've had 7 surgeries. Oh my goodness. So you've gone through 7 surgeries, but at this point you were told, you know, you're fixed. Your infection is cleared, your fracture is fixed, and you're doing all the right things. You're doing your physical therapy, you're doing your rehab, but your ankle isn't moving.
Yeah.
Your ankle is stiff as a board. It's not moving. It's not functional, and you're in daily pain.
Yes.
And you're getting, you know, you're going back to your doctor and you're going back to your surgeon. Mm-hmm. And at first is saying, oh, it's okay. It's okay. This is normal. This is normal.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden it's
not. And that was one of the hardest things ever to hear too. You know, I noticed something was wrong with my leg. After those 7 surgeries, it stopped moving. All my toes had curled under. I was falling. Like I was physically falling around my house. I couldn't walk very far. Stairs, I had to like pull myself up using the handrail. I was in excruciating pain. I wasn't sleeping. Everything was just going downhill. And so you go to your surgeon and you say, you know, something's going on. This isn't right. And just the constant reassurance that I got, the false reassurance of, no, it's part of the process, to then 2 months later to come back and, you know, have both hands thrown up by your surgeon. Oh, you have a contracture and I can't help you anymore. That feeling right there of being so alone and so hopeless, I'll always remember that day, because me and my mom just looked at each other like, you said this was normal.
Yeah.
You said it would come back. Now you're telling me that this is going to be another surgery, if not impossible to overcome. that was the hardest part. And it was those things, the things that added up like that, that really contributed to hitting rock bottom, because it felt like the world was against me.
Yeah. And how did you draw yourself up from that point?
I didn't draw myself back up for a long time. I really struggled mentally. I think had it not been for my family and my close friends, I would have not made it through. But I think the ultimate light at the end of the tunnel and the realization that ultimately allowed for me to come back up was after consulting probably a dozen surgeons that could not help me to fix my contracted ankle, help me get my life back. There was one surgeon in particular, and he was in Michigan, and I'll just never forget him because he really changed my life, and I don't even think he knows it. He came in my room, my parents and I were sitting there, and he said, your case is really bad. It's really messy. It's out of my scope. I'm not qualified to help you, but let me tell you about the surgery that I read in med school. And he tells me about the surgery called ankle distraction arthroplasty surgery. He's like, it would help you avoid a fusion. It would help you avoid amputation. I think you should look into it. And it wasn't until I was sitting in New York in my surgeon's office that my life changed, because when I was in that office, I was given hope back. I wasn't there just talking about my ankle, but he asked about my life, the quality of my life, how I had been feeling, how I had been struggling. And I just remember breaking down because I'm like, I have interviewed dozens of surgeons and not one of them has taken the time to even ask how I'm doing. Not how my leg is doing, not how the pain is, how am I doing? And when he did that, it gave me hope. It gave me hope that I could overcome this and I could fight through it.
What even gave, after obviously meeting with, your initial surgeon and getting that devastating news, what even gave you that motivation to seek the other opinions? Was that motivation from your family, from yourself, from, where did that come from?
I think definitely a little bit. My parents and I, we're not giving up, because all of the options I had been offered felt simply like I was giving up. I wanted to continue to regain my mobility. I wanted to continue to try and at least live as close to as once I once lived. And those second opinions, it was just, nothing that I was being offered felt right. I wanted to trust my gut. I didn't get to choose my surgeon the first time. It was emergency surgery. And, I wanted a say. If I was going back under, this was going to be in my court. I wanted to feel as if I, for once, had control.
And you elected to do the distraction arthroplasty, is that correct?
I did, yes.
Okay. And when was that?
That was actually 2 weeks after I graduated from college. I moved to Hoboken, New Jersey, and I had the surgery. So that would have been May of 2022.
Okay. And I'm going to take a little bit of time to sort of explain this to some of our
Absolutely.
Surgeon viewers. So this right here is a ringed external fixator. So Sarah actually had this on her body. And so these rings go around her limb, and then pins go through these bars and actually through the skin and into the bone, these crossing pins. And these here are struts. And these struts actually expand. And as these struts expand, it actually distracts her ankle joint. So it distracts her ankle joint and it stretches her tendons, allowing that joint to expand and allowing her to gain mobility through her ankle joint. It's a rare surgery. It's a surgery that not many orthopedic surgeons do, which is why she had to find a specialist to do so. It's obviously seemingly a bit barbaric too. She had to have this contraption on her leg. I think you said 103?
101.
101 days. So it's not for the faint of heart, but for someone that's motivated and for someone that's young, it is an option. So let's talk about your experience with the ringed fixator.
Absolutely. Oh my gosh, where to begin? I guess for starters, I went in pre-op and thought I was going to have to manually distract my joint for the next 3.5 months. And I actually got the auto version. So it would automatically distract my joint every hour, on the hour, throughout the day for about 6 weeks. At first, It was really hard. It was, like, what did I just get myself into? This is an 18-month long recovery. This cage is on my leg. I'm bleeding. I can't walk. I need a knee scooter. I need a wheelchair. Like, what did I get myself into? But slowly after that, I started to see my ankle go back to the place it once was, and I started to love it again. Like, I started to appreciate what the device was doing. Instead of hating it for how painful it was, I was so just genuinely thankful to have that opportunity to get ultimately what I wanted back.
I'm sure, mentally now we're on our, ninth surgery.
Yeah.
As a physician, I have now identified the mental struggles that patients go through in recovery just as much as the physical.
Yeah.
How did you deal with that, or how did you learn to deal with that? Even what advice would you give to patients about how to handle the mental part of recovery and emotional too?
Yeah. So at this point in my recovery, having this surgery, ankle distraction orthoplasty surgery, I would still say I was at rock bottom, but I was kind of just coming back up. But I had not nearly hit a good state of mind. I remember going through all these surgeries and going online, as we all do, looking for someone that would post to share their story that I could be inspired by or just relate to. It felt like I was so alone because no one understood what I was going through, and I couldn't talk to someone about it because it's such a rare surgery. My biggest advice to patients is there's no right or wrong way to get through recovery, but to hold back and to hold it all in is going to drown you, because that's what I did for the first 7 surgeries. I didn't communicate how I was feeling to people. I didn't talk about how badly I was mentally struggling. And when I wasn't talking about it, no one could tell and no one could help me.
Yeah.
Ultimately, these recoveries, these surgeries, it's up to you if you want to get through. But the only way you're going to get through is if you want it. So you just have to take the first step. And I think that the first step for me was being honest with myself. This is not the best version of myself that I can be. I want to be the best version of myself. I hated my leg. I resented it. I resented it because it wasn't what I was used to and it wasn't normal. So I kind of embedded this motto into my recovery. And this is something that's helped a lot of, patients and followers of mine as well. When you learn to accept the uncontrollable for what it is rather than for what you want it to be, life becomes so much easier. And so every day when I would find myself frustrated, I would think to myself, this is out of my control right now. Right now, whether or not I recover from this is out of my control. So I need to accept that I have this on my leg. I need to accept that this is going to be a hard road. I need to accept that I'm not going to be able to walk and I'm never going to live, that life that I once lived again. And the more I learned to accept the things I hated, the easier it got to love what I had and to be so appreciative for what I was able to maintain.
That was so eloquently put.
Thank you.
No, thank you. Now, you just brought up followers, and that's perfect because that's the most perfect segue for what I wanted to talk about next. Can you please talk to us about Road to Recovery?
Yes. Road to Recovery is hands down my saving grace. It is the place where I feel safe and loved and motivated, supported, everything. Always brings a tear to my eye just because that Sarah that once sat alone on the bathroom floor crying, just wondering if anyone else could relate, I don't even recognize her now because I have this community that I've built. Road to Recovery is so much more than just a Facebook page or a TikTok page. It's a page for people to be vulnerable. It's a page for people to connect with one another and to not have to be afraid to share what they're struggling with. These surgeries, it's so hard to relate to people that have gone through them, and it's so hard to find people that have gone through them. But Road to Recovery has offered that for so many different individuals. And the page isn't even just for recoveries either. So many people, whether, they're struggling with something else in their life, have a family, a job issue, the inspiration in that page is indescribable. I do my best to try and really advocate for get the second opinion. Don't give up on yourself because someone else told you you should. At the end of the day, you are the person that knows your body best. An opinion is simply that. It's an opinion. It doesn't need to be a decision. It's an opinion.
And
so
how did it form? Like, how did it originate? Like, tell us about the roots.
So it's kind of funny how Road to Recovery formed. I actually started it because I was getting so many text messages from friends and family about, my recovery in itself. And when you're going through that many surgeries, it can be really mentally daunting to have to answer everybody all the time. So I was like, let me make a Facebook page. Now I can just post my updates, and then all my friends and family can consistently stay up to date. I don't have to worry that I didn't respond to, my aunt or my uncle, my cousin, whatever it may be. And so I made this Facebook page. I posted one TikTok in the hospital, and within 24 hours, the Facebook page was getting traction, and other people were messaging me saying, I'm going through this too. I didn't know that other people were struggling with this too. Or, oh my gosh, I had that surgery too. I've been looking into that surgery. I live with pain. It just was this community that was instantly built. So I opened up Road to Recovery's Facebook page to the public and let anybody join that felt they needed a safe place to go. And from there, it just grew.
Yeah. So you just started as kind of like a family communication?
Yeah,
and
pretty
it just
much.
turned into like a
So
patient
much more.
advocacy and patient just relation type of platform where, people can come and just find some solace.
Yep.
Yeah. And where do you see the future for it? How do you see it growing? How do you see it changing?
I would love to turn Road to Recovery into something even more meaningful than it already is. I would love to get connected with surgeons and companies such as Enovis, really work to advocate for patient well-being, and not just in the recovery sense, but the mental health sense. I'd love to continue to offer resources for those that are struggling, to let them know that they're not alone. Because ultimately, when you go through these surgeries, if you're mentally struggling, that is going to impact your recovery, and it's going to change the outcome. So if we can get ahead of this before it even occurs, give those patients those resources before they even go into the operating room of how you can navigate recovery mentally, I really think it could change the game. It's definitely something that's in the works. I have so many ideas for it. I'd love to write a book. I'd love to start a podcast. Right now I'm just trying to graduate law school first. But
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Yes.
I really, it's my biggest passion. It is my biggest joy, and it is hands down probably will forever be my greatest accomplishment.
Where are you now in terms of you, your leg, your function, your pain, etc.?
Right now, I am about 22, about 3 years post-op from ankle distraction arthroplasty surgery. Everything is going decent for the most part, and I say decent because nothing will ever be perfect. Recovery is what it is. I live still with chronic pain. As a result of compartment syndrome, I lost a portion of muscle in my foot, and my tibial nerve suffered some severe damage. So I do lack sensation in my foot. Can't really feel certain parts of it. I can't move my toes because the muscle that ultimately died from compartment syndrome was removed, and that controlled it. Sometimes I still walk with a limp. I definitely have arthritis, and I've been developing some bone spurs. So it sounds intimidating, and that sounds scary. It sounds like it's not working, but this is the best that my ankle has been since my accident. And living in chronic pain probably isn't for everyone. That probably is very scary for a lot of people, but I would choose living in a little bit of pain over losing my foot any day of the week. So right now I'm just trying to do the best I can to get through it. And I actually just got a new device to help me regain my mobility.
I see that.
Yes. So this is kind of where I'm at now, is learning how to use this and learning how to regain my mobility.
Are you still in active physical therapy?
I am not. Unfortunately, with the way physical therapy is set up, I have been dropped from physical therapy more times than I can count because I have a lack of range of motion and they can't show improvement on paper. So they can't treat me, that's another battle that I think a lot of my followers go through is you want help and you want to feel better, but you can't get that help because it can't be shown on paper.
And just to clarify, the insurance won't cover it,
Yes,
right? Because
correct.
the physical therapist can't document that you're making
Yes.
progress.
And it's hard, yeah. So I'm not actively in physical therapy, but I do like have an at-home gym and I do my exercises and such there. So kind of an expert at it now. I've been doing it for long enough, so I don't know if I really need to go to physical therapy to be able to do it.
I could see that.
Yeah.
All right. I'm an orthopedic surgeon.
Yes.
How can you teach me to be better?
My gosh. It's just so crazy to me because right now I'm having a full circle moment. I went from interviewing dozens of surgeons to now you're interviewing me, and I never thought this day would come. My biggest piece of advice is to practice empathy over sympathy. Empathy goes so far, and when a patient feels that you're empathetic and you're not just there to evaluate them, look at their leg, and move on, it really allows for them to trust you. And I feel like when you have that good relationship with a surgeon, it makes recovery so much easier. So what I mean by this is I interviewed dozens of surgeons. Out of all those surgeons, one surgeon asked me how I was doing mentally. One surgeon checked in on me to ask me, how are you dealing with school during this time? How are you dealing with your life during this time? Humanizing the patients is so important. And I think it's often overlooked. We get busy in the office and we overlook things. But just that little bit of empathy can give so much hope to someone. And I guess the other thing is too, if you have a patient that's struggling and you're not addressing it or you don't know about it, that mental struggle is going to impact their recovery. So it's something that needs to be addressed to ultimately be able to oversee their entire recovery.
To have a better outcome.
Yeah.
Sounds to me it's like treating the person and not treating the limb.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what it is. I think, I had the realization of how truly amazing my surgeon was when I went in for my 6-month post-op and he looked at me and we didn't even talk about my leg for the first 15 minutes because he looked at me and he said, when you came to me, you were so visibly depressed. And the Sarah I'm looking at right now is not the Sarah I met 6 months ago. And I was like, that's because you gave me hope.
Yeah. I don't know if we could end on any better note than that. But it has been such an ultimate pleasure and inspiration to get to know you.
Thank you.
And I now follow you on Road to Recovery.
Please do.
Yes. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you so
Honestly and
much for
truly.
having me.
Absolutely. And to our listeners and viewers, thank you so much for joining us today. And we look forward to the next time.